All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. Let's start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Chorash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do teach and rule well. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, they who've been predestined from the foundation of the world to get this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding with no gimmicks, no frills, uh, and they'll eat this whole roll, you know, and take on Yahweh Shah in its entirety, you know, him being the volume of the book, and also the spirit of prophecy, when you dive into the belief in Yahweh Shah, it covers everything we need to be granted salvation, and that's I say that to say uh, there's others who teach Yahweh Shah for envy and strife, and you can see that constantly the closer we get, to Yahweh Shah's return, these individuals who utilize this time, and this knowledge that they've gotten, because as the scriptures say, you know, knowledge puffeth up, they use this knowledge, to fulfill their ego and their pride, but ultimately it's going to be to your demise, uh, those who will be granted the salvation are those who are doing this work in truth and in sincerity, because what stemmed my thought process for this epistle that was pretty much centered around these if you want to know, these Israelites who go on these different platforms. The latest one was last night where they had Captain Desariat. And what was last? It wasn't last night. It was yesterday during the day, but brothers were starting to touch on it last night. But they go on these platforms and all they do, man, they get up there and they they ha ha, they talk shit, they crack jokes, and they just want to be seen of men. They do that. They on that high school bullshit. You know how high schoolers do, where they'll sit around a lunch table, and the guy who got the best jokes, or who got he got the best rhymes, the best outfit, the best this, that, and the third, you know, he's the top individual, and that's what individuals they use this truth, you know, to fulfill that same will, that lunch table madness, and that's what these are, as the scriptures talk about, you know, uh, a child left to himself, you know, they become willful, meaning undisciplined to the point where even now this admonishment that we're doing through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shemi Yahushua, they won't look at it that way. They think, oh, you hating. That's the way I wake up Israel, you know. But hey, that's also a way you can gain a lot of individuals who are just looking to be entertained. This truth isn't about entertainment. I mean, don't get me wrong; it has its own form of entertainment in itself. But hey, man, you got to be sincere when it comes to how you want to be entertained. Because don't get me wrong, man, I love every aspect of this truth. I find it entertaining to the point where, and not in a sense of where, in a folly sense, but just I love every aspect of it. I love the balance of it. You know, I love the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that comes along with it. Not to mention, it's the one true way to serve our power in humility. When a lot of the guys they don't got this. And that's hey, that's what a lot of individuals, even during the time of Apostle Paul, after you know uh, uh, he established the churches, you know, he did all of his travels. He did it because he loved to do it, but it also it brought in a lot of bad fish, so to speak. You know how when you go fishing, you throw you cast your line, you'll get some good ones in there, ones that are up to standard, no blemishes, no deformities, you know. But then on the other hand, you get some that you pull in, and they motherfucker damn near ain't got no gills on him. You can't breathe properly, you know. He wouldn't be suitable for the nourishment of whatever you're using them for. So what? You cast them back in, and that's what the Lord's going to do with a lot of these individuals that follow these blind leaders, teaching you how to shot for their purpose. But hey, without any more rambling, Forgive me for the lengthy introduction, but the more you see this stuff, the more it just kind of puts a fire up under you. You gotta speak on it, But hey, uh, let's get this right here in Philippians 1:12, because this is the same thing that was happening, where Apostle Paul, he was writing to the church of Philippi, and he was pretty much just like showing forth how happy he was that the ministry, it was growing, But then on the same end, he was saying the same things we're saying, the ministry's growing, but there's a lot of individuals that they use this ministry, you know, to fulfill whatever will they got going on. You see. So this is Philippians 1:12, and as you can see, it reads in the headline. It says the gospel was preached. It says Paul's joy that a Mashiach is preached. Yeah, and that's the same thing with us, man. We look at the end of the day, for real. Like we get annoyed because we know there's a way that you're supposed to teach Yahushua, you know, but it pisses you off because you can see the in betweens of it, so it's bullshit. But hey, man, even as the scriptures say, though in pretense or in sincerity, Yahushua is still preached. So it perturbs us a little bit, but then we like, oh man, this is kind of just need to be, and that's the beautiful thing about the growth in this truth. You learn how to settle in, you know, you learn you ain't got to correct every little bullshit thing somebody say, you know. You hop in when the spirit hops on you, you know, to do what you need to do to protect the Lord's sheep, you know, to make sure the flocks maintain. And the way you do that is by making sure they're not caught up in the philosophies of men, because that was a heavy thing that even the scribes and Pharisees, you know, they were heavy into the traditions of men, the washing of hands, if you don't wash your hands, and which, a uh, uh, a lot of those things, it comes with growth where you kind of just like, all right, you realize all of our righteousness is as filthy rags. So you find your balance, you and you make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, when you hear certain things, you know how to know the difference between sincerity and pretense. But anyways, this is Philippians 1:12. It says, but I would ye should understand, brethren, that the things which happen unto me have fallen out unto the furtherance of the gospel. Yeah, and that's a lot of things have to happen to those sincere ministers, servants of Yahweh Shai. It ain't gonna be no cakewalk. But at the end of the day, no matter what we go through, we endure all things for the elect's sake. At least that's what your mindset should be. You know, it says so that my bounds in a Mashiach are manifest. It says in all the palace and in all other places. It says, and many of the brethren in the Lord waxing confident in my bounds, it says, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Yeah, and that's what we do. We give you that sound doctrine, you know, it covers all aspects, so you understand you have 100% truth. So, hey, man, when somebody comes up or a doctrine starts to flare up, or something's being taught, that is against Yahweh Shai, you don't have fear in correcting it, And on top of that, within that, you know, within that confidence, you know, and you'll be more subject to study, do the things that's required to make sure that you're well versed in whatever you say, you know. And that's what Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai has done for us. It's given us a mouth that no man can gainsay or resist. So, hey, man, we don't have fear when certain individuals come up. And that's another part of the balance that you have to find in this truth, too. Hey, because within that confidence, you got to know how to show humility, too. Knowing that everybody don't have this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So there's a way to go about it. Now, don't get me wrong. If they make their head hard, hey, we're gonna make our head just as hard. But there's levels to it. It says some indeed preach even of envy and strife, and some of goodwill. Yeah, that's what we do. You got some that preach for goodwill. You got some that preach for envy and strife. Let's get this word for strife. Let's see what it says. It's the Greek G2054 eres, and it says contention, strife, and wrangling. Yeah, they do it for the sense of contention. These clubhouse debates. These individuals that go on platforms just so they can get the ooh I cut you moment. They doing it for contention. You know, now don't get me wrong. This truth in itself, it's contentious. You know, it'll set at variance. A mother against the father, or not the mother, but the daughter against mother, father against son. It brings contention. You know, but if that's what you love about this truth, you know, or that's your main focus on the truth, let's say, you're not in the right spirit. The our portion according to the gift we've been given, is to edify. You know, feed the Lord's sheep. You know, make sure you're doing what you have to do. Uh, uh, to show the Lord, hey, you care about His elect. You care about His plan. Anything other than that, you build it on your own plan. You know. And when I was watching that clubhouse shit yesterday, man, I to be honest with you, I probably had it on for 5 minutes, the same spot where if you watch the Elder Apostle Tahar's video, you know, it was on for that couple of minutes, where he started out in his lesson. And then, as you can see, he kind of just branched away from it too, because it's like, God damn, y'all ain't doing nothing up here but cracking jokes on each other, talking shit. It's been all around 10 minutes. Ain't no scripture came out. Ain't no edification. Ain't no talks about Yahweh by Hashem Shah came out. But yet, y'all still up here saying, next to the stage, you're going to have Hakar. Man, fuck all that. Fuck your stage. Fuck your platform. Hey, this is all supposed to be for the glorification of Yahweh by Hashem Shah, right? But how often do you hear that out of their mouth? You know? Anyways, it says strife, debate. There you go. That's what they do. They continually are in a state of debate. Debate me this, debate me this, debate me that. You know? And that came from a lot of those individuals, these newer comers, your Captain Tazariaks, your Genesis, your what's my man name? The Booty Bandit, um, Alazar, you know, where they do these certain things, where they're like, yeah, I'm the best debater, you know. Can't nobody out debate me. Y'all got to get y'all debate skills up, you know. How about getting your skills up and making sure you're doing what's required, you know? And niggas ain't focusing on that, making sure they're becoming that new creature as that the scriptures talk about is required of us, to be granted that salvation. Niggas ain't becoming new creatures, you know. Hey, niggas are stuck in the that that want to fulfill the will of the old man, you know. And the way the old man used to think, they use the truth to boost that man, And then when they can't utilize the truth anymore to boost that old man, what happens? Oh yeah, I'm not a part of the Israelite community anymore. It says wrangling, contention, debate, strife. Here, let's keep going. It says some indeed preach. Back in Philippians 1:15 again, it says some indeed preach of Mashiach, even of envy and strife, and some also to goodwill. It says the one preach of Mashiach of contention and not sincerity. Yep. It says supposed to add affliction to my bounds. It says but the other of love, and that's what it do, man. It makes us mad a little bit, and it gives us affliction. But hey, we're in a point of being refined. We need to we need that balance of niggas going the fuck off so we can be that defense of the gospel. This is all the condition of the battle. You know, a If the truth was easy, everybody would do it, you know. But you see, everybody can't do it. You know, it's easier for people to take that broad way, you know, which pretty much leads to destruction, where they put Yahweh Shah on the back burner, you know. And niggas don't even say Yahweh Shah. You know, you got I just seen a video. You got individuals in the Philippines, you know, that go into the ancient Hebrew, and they they put that they got that they're invigorated by the name of Yahweh Shah, you know. But yet you come over here in America, where uh, uh what is it what how hard is it to just say Yahweh Shah or teach Yahweh Shah? Which makes you think, man, a lot of these dudes done sold the fuck out, you know. They've taken that Judas bag and they're running with it, you know. And now they start up businesses, and they got all kind of websites and GoFundMe's, and you know, but while they're increasing, Yahweh Shah is decreasing, you know. Hey, which which is the reason why I can see them saying why they hate John the Baptist so much, you know, because John the Baptist was about taking the low, you know. It was a man who ate from the wild wait ate from the wild, you know. He wasn't lavish in his apparel, you know. But at the end of the day, he realized Yahweh Shah must increase. These dudes, man, they put themselves on a pedestal. You know, I be seeing Genesis and all these dudes. I be on different social media platforms, you know, and it's all about a bigging up they drip, you know, bigging up their outfits, you know, just showing off, showboating, you know. But hey, man, these things that you're doing here now, it's a corruptible crown, bro. These things, these actions like this is not gonna carry on into the kingdom. You know what carries on into the kingdom is the renewing of your mind. You know, the renewing of your mind to the point where the body follows. You know, that's how you show your faith by your works. You know, where your actions are so where your mind is so in tune with Yahweh by Shem Shah that your body can't help but follow. That's for the reason why Apostle Paul was like, man, the things that I don't want to do, I do. You know, because your mind, you're so renewed and transformed in your mind, and you're like, damn, you know, I know I don't want to be like this, but hey, we're within this sinful flesh. But hey, if you continue to let that sinful flesh get the best of you, you know, hey, that oil will start to leak out of you. You see, but it says, yeah, that was a point on that. Let's get, what was that in First Timothy, where it talks about the vain jangling, you know, because that's what these individuals do. You know, they do that vain jangling means just just filling up space with empty words. You know, First Timothy 1, I think it's. I thought it was in 4. Okay, it's in 6. Uh, I start at 4 though. This First Timothy 1 and 4. It says, "Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogy," and that's what even during this time, you know, where in Macedonia, I believe it was, you know, a lot of those Israelites, man, they were still trying to keep those old customs, you know, spoken about, you know, by traditions of men, you know. So Apostle Paul was like, man, hey, don't let that seep into the ministry, you know. Hey, keep it Yahweh Shah, you know. It says, which minister questions, yeah, which minister questions. And that's what happens when a lot of these dudes get together on these platforms, you know, where they got all kind of different ideologies on one platform, and people just confused, and now they just ask questions, you know. When it comes to us and the truth, all you got to do is sit back and listen, and the Holy Spirit will feed you if you're sincere in the matter. But when you go on these platforms where you got a dude hollering out, paying African They got a Dr. Umar ass nigga screaming out Pan Africanism. But you gotta watch out for dudes like Dr. Umar too. You know. Hey, what a school what a school, Dr. Umar? You know? Hey, what happened to your bank account, bro? Why every time you turn around you asking for money? You know? Anyways, it says rather than godly edifying, yeah. Rather than edifying via the volume of the book, which is Yahweh Shah. You know, where's your godly edifying at? You know. Meanwhile, on the other end, you know, y'all just up there talking shit about each other, just making people laugh. You know, a folly is set in great dignity, even amongst these Israelites, bro. You know, if you spend most of your time on an hour video, and the most that you do is laugh, you know, you got niggas talking shit, you know, and you ain't nothing's been said to build you up according to the inward man, you know, then hey man, you might have to cut that individual off, you know. And don't get me wrong, hey, we all have our folly. Even Apostle Paul, he spoke about it. Please endure me a little bit in my folly, you know. But even in that folly, you know, you know, edification come out of like us, you know. Like I cracked the joke on Dr. Umar, you know, but it was more or less, you know, to give a warning. Like, god damn, man, every time you turn around, you offering like Donald Trump do. He making all these promises that he can't keep, you know, and now they calling him what? Apostle Paul said, I'm not Apostle. The Apostle Tahar, he said it yesterday. Um, TACO. That's the acronym they're giving Trump now, which means what is it? Trump TACO. Oh yeah, Trump always chickens out, and that's what a lot of these leaders do. You know, your Dr. Umars. You know, giving promises that they can't keep. You see, so when we crack a joke, you know, what's the saying in the world? All jokes contain truth. You know. But just gaslighting and shit like that, man. What good is that going to do to the listener? You know. But anyway, it says now, uh, now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart. And what is the ultimate form of charity? You know, a giving people giving the Israelites Yahweh Shah. You know, because what did Yahweh Shah say? He come to give give liberty to the captive, you know, to heal the brokenhearted, you know. That is the true charity that you can do. But dudes put that on the back burner, man. It says, we about to end it. It says, now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart and of a good conscience. Yeah, you gotta have a good conscience, you know. Let's get this word for conscience real quick. It's G4893. Said
Strong's G 4893. Sinitis.
And it says a conscience of anything. This is in the outline biblical usage. It says a soul as distinguishing between what is morally good and bad. It says prompting to do the former and shun the latter. It says commending one, condemning the other. That's it. So that's what we do. We're of a good conscience where we know how to through the Holy Spirit and then through the measuring stick, which is the scriptures, and we know the difference between good and evil, you know. And that's what the Lord is doing for us now. That's what the purpose of this whole process the Israelites are going through now, you know. So we'll be as gods knowing good and evil, you see. But dudes still they lean on to the evil right now where you're supposed to be leaning on to the good. You see? Yeah, that was the point I wanted in that. Let's go back. It says, and faith unfeigned. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to have. Faith unfeigned, you know, unwavering. You know, nobody can tell you anything otherwise. But when you go onto these platforms, or just because a dude and he sound good, Now your faith might be a little taken back, you know. But hey, man, you can't deceive the elect, but the elect, you know, they'll know the difference between when guys are just going up on a platform, to fulfill their will. But continuing on, it says, from which some have swerved, uh, have turned aside unto vain jangling. Now let's get this word for jangling. Vain jangling. It says, it says in the Greek that word goes into vain talking, empty talk, vain jangling. Yeah, so you niggas are utilizing this truth that we have for just empty talk. Just because people, Jake like that shit. Jake like the small talk bullshit, sit on the stoop all day and talk about nothing for 10 hours straight. You know, as long as a couple jokes get cracked, a nigga can fire up his spliff. A beer can get passed around. Don't let a bottle come out. Then hey, niggas gonna hang around for another 4 hours and talk more ignorance. But that's what happens on these platforms, man. They're drunken with just the philosophies of men. You know, it says desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say nor whereof they're affirmed, and that's what you witnessing happen. You know, dudes take this truth on, man, and they push and more of the law instead of Yahweh Shah. Now, as Yahweh Shah said, don't think that he come to destroy the law or the prophets, but he comes to fulfill. So within his fulfillment, you have to go according to his plan. So those the law and the prophets will be fulfilled. People don't put things into perspective. You know, and that's why you have a lot of these law Israelites, because they make the law their righteousness, you know, instead of their faith in Yahweh by Shemi Al Shah, So hey man, I'm gonna end it right there. Just another little exhortation, well, more or less admonishment, which pretty much meaning to show somebody their fault, show them where they're going wrong, but also, you know, um, an exhortation to you true worshipers, you true followers, on not to get caught up in these dudes' mess, and to set up a marking for a. Actually, let's get that real quick. I was gonna end it. Uh, what the scriptures talk about? Mark them that cause division. Blue letter be acting funny sometime when it comes to searching. Yeah, Romans 16 and 17, it says, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them that cause division. Yeah, and how do they cause division? You know, they're not constantly having their focus on Yahweh Shah. They teach Yahweh Shah for envy and strife. So you have to what? You got to mark those dudes. And when you go into that word for mark here, it goes into a scorpeo, meaning pretty much put a scope on their ass. Show the congregation this is what you should and should not do. It says, mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. Yeah, so that's what we do. And it's not saying in the sense of where you just avoid them where you don't speak on it, you know. Nah, hey, how do you mark them? How do you put a scope on them? You call out their madness. You show forth unto the congregation that this is against uh, um, the righteous will of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. So with that, hey man, I'm gonna end off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua by Hashem Rakah Kwadash. Hey, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and shalom to the elect.